let's move on to after you returned from the Bahamas, you said you obtained a document showing detailed accounting of Tether's holding, which included, quote, billions of dollars of short-term loans to large Chinese companies.
Yes. And, I'm being some people have asked why I didn't post the document or give more details. And, I'm giving as much as I can.
Got it. You don't want to reveal your source, I guess would be.
Exactly. I want to be a little, keep it a little vague.
Okay, perfect.
There's a lot of question about, does Tether have this Chinese commercial paper? A lot of people were saying on Twitter that they do. And I found what I believe to be this trustworthy document that shows that, yes, they have a lot of Chinese commercial paper. Not Evergrande, which was the property developer that's teetering on the edge of bankruptcy or whatever.
Right. And you got these documents before Evergrande collapsed, correct?
Yeah, these predate that, and there's and I didn't see Evergrande in there.
Got it. Okay, and so it was detailed to the level that it showed the actual holdings, is what you're saying, because Evergrande wasn't listed, which means other people were listed.
I feel like I would have, but who knows? In this story, it's so hard to know what to believe. Right. I mean, there's no pile of gold, right? In the end, how do you almost start wondering, how do you prove anything about?
Well, I mean, it just shows that the banking system, the global banking system, combined with crypto, I would think you would agree, and anybody listening would agree, creates a great opportunity to obscurify what's actually happening, right? And in fact, Tether is an obscurification tool, right? People can buy Tether. You could be a criminal, you could be the Vatican, anybody in between. I guess some people would consider the Vatican more on the criminal side, but putting that aside, you could be anywhere in between those two, a virtuous nonprofit or a, terrorist organization. Anybody could buy Tethers, move them around, and there's very little way to figure out what's going on, at least by journalists. So when you get this document, let me ask this question. How sure are you, and how does a journalist, broad strokes, without being specific to this case, what is the process of vetting a document like this without revealing your sources, which I'm sensitive to? Because it's a whistleblower, obviously, or somebody who could have serious ramifications for giving this information. How does one, as a journalist, make sure that you're not being actually manipulated and somebody's not trying to do an operation on you? Because the people who are running Tether seem very colorful. Perhaps, some people would consider them to be dishonest, I think, and people have some concerns about them. So did you ever think maybe somebody's sending you a forged document to make Bloomberg look bad? And then how does an organization, a journalistic organization that has a very big reputation like Bloomberg, make sure you're not getting snowed?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a risk, like anything. It's certainly something I worry about. I mean, it depends how much you trust the source.
Correct.
And sometimes you're able to verify some of the details independently.
Got it.
And
corroborating evidence that you get from the documents, right? You could look at the letterhead and make sure that's official letterhead. You could look at the data inside of it and make sure that that data seems legitimate.
Yeah, you could check some of the data with other sources. And also, I mean, I think people have a lot of misconceptions about how journalism works. I'm not saying you, but sometimes I don't realize how little people understand. I think everyone's going to know how this works, and they don't. I wouldn't just.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, I'm a journalist. The reason I asked the question is for the benefit of the audience, so that they could look into your process, because you do think deeply before publishing something like this. Correct?
I mean, we wouldn't just get something in the mail, like an anonymous thing, and be like, "Oh yeah, I've seen it," for sure. If we put it in there, it's because we believe it to be true. We've had reason to do so, and I wish I could have been more specific in the story, but that was the best I could do.
I mean, eventually you probably will be at some point as the ramifications happen. So let's. So they have billions of dollars in these short-term loans to large Chinese companies. One would wonder, why would they take that risk? And then the next one is that they were giving loans or making investments. I guess they would be loans to other crypto companies using Bitcoin as collateral. So I assume the other company's Bitcoin would become the collateral of Tether. So am I correct in assuming they're taking these high-risk loans from the Chinese companies to get the a better return because they're high risk, they have higher return because they carry the risk. But in the second case of giving money to crypto and then owning their Bitcoin, is this a savvy move? Because if they are investing in those crypto companies and they're enabling crypto, they know crypto's growing, they have inside information, essentially because of their data knowledge, right? But they also then get to own their Bitcoin as collateral, and Bitcoin's going up. So if they do go bust, they get that benefit. We don't know what's in these documents. Maybe they get an interest rate. That's really good. But in a way, this is like somebody who, somebody who sells houses, giving people the loans to buy the houses without doing a background check on them, and like that could prop up the entire ecosystem. Is that the issue here?
So they're giving, like, these loans aren't too complicated. It's like this, I was explained this by the founder of Celsius, which is like a big sort of quasi bank prime broker type company. So he's got too many Bitcoins. He wants Tethers instead. So he'll give Tether, say, and don't quote me on these numbers, but let's say he gives Tether $1 million worth of Bitcoin as collateral to hold on to temporarily. Tether will lend him $700,000 worth of Tether. So even if the price of Bitcoin goes down a fair amount, they're still covered. And Celsius pays Tether, he said, 5 or 6% interest. So that's like, I mean, you can see why they do this. I mean, it seems pretty safe, like, as far as things go, especially in the Bitcoin world. And 5 or 6% interest is pretty good, even, I mean, if on $1 billion loan, that's what he said, or $1 billion Tether loan, that's $50 million a year.
Right.
So this is a pretty profitable deal for them. And if you believe in Bitcoin, you might think it's not too risky. Now, I mean, the thing that we're not talking about here is like Tether is, if you compared it to, say, like a money market fund, I mean, these funds take like very, very little risk because there's this one big risk, which is that if people lose confidence in the fund or in Tether, they might say, okay, I think Tether might have lost some money in secret. It's like a game of musical chairs. Like, I better cash out, right? Because if I'm the last one, the money could be gone.
You could have a bank run, basically, and you don't want to be the bag holder.
Yeah.
Because if these loans were to fail, there would be this sort of shockwave. People start pulling out. They start selling their Tethers, try to cash them in or whatever. Maybe it could go below $1 because Tether doesn't have the assets to back it. Hey, everybody. I thought I would bring Christina Cacioppo. I pronounced it correct, I'm hoping, Christina?
You got it. Yep.
All right. You're the founder of Vanta. People have been hearing your ads on the pod for the last year. And I thought it'd be fun to have you on and you to explain why you created Vanta and what SOC 2 is and why it's important people get it right. So let's start with, what is SOC 2 for people who are just realizing they have to become SOC 2 compliant?
For sure. So SOC 2 is, at its high level, it's sort of a customer asking you to prove your security.
Got it. And when you do a SOC 2 report, how often do you have to update it? And what is that process like? Because my understanding is you don't just do this once in the life of your company. You do it continually, every year, every quarter?
Right. So you actually do it annually. Yeah. So often, so the way these reports work is they've got dates and time periods on them, and sort of like a pen test. It's something once you start doing, you'll just renew every year.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming on and telling the audience why you should get your SOC 2, when you should get it, and how you should do it. And you've been very nice to our audience, giving them $1,000 off, which is a really significant and generous offer. Go to vanta.com/twist. vanta.com/twist to get $1,000 off your SOC 2. Thanks, Christina. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Cheers now.